Hi, Scott.
Hi, Stephanie.
Thanks so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Not a problem.
So, first of all, I want to hear about you. Tell us a little bit about where you work.
So I am the Deputy Director at the Maryland Archaeological Conservation Lab at Jefferson Patterson Park and Museum. And I've been here since just last year, coming up on a year in about 4 months, I think. Prior to that, I was working at St. Mary's College of Maryland since around 2008. So it's been a change of scenery.
What are you doing in your new job as deputy director?
So I oversee collections and research here at the lab. One of the projects that we have ongoing is to overhaul the Diagnostic Artifacts in Maryland website. So I've been going through and looking at new categories for native ceramics and native tools that we want to get added onto the website, as well as take some photographs of existing artifacts that are on the website that were taken over 20 years ago that need a little touch up. I answer a lot of calls and emails from people with various rocks that I get to identify, whether they are cultural rocks or not. I try to do my best to give them an answer that they'll be happy with without getting angry.
Easier said than done, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad to hear you guys are updating the Diagnostic Artifacts website. I mean, it's such a gem and came out of the Mac lab. But yeah, it's everything needs a little updating, a little dusting off from time to time. So in your new job, you said about a year. What's your favorite thing that you do?
My favorite thing to do is we're working with a collection that was excavated in the 1980s called the Stern Site. And the thing that I find very calming and soothing about that collection is I can sit aside and just very quietly sort stone like debitage and lithics and ceramics into different types. I just find that oddly satisfying, but that's just me.
The Stern site right there at on Jeff Pat campus, right?
Yeah, here at Jefferson Patterson Park. And uh, it was dug between 1986 and 1988 by Dennis Pogue and Lori Stepanidis. Has a very large late woodland component. So most of the artifacts from that site date to the late woodland, but there's also a lot of earlier stuff as well.
So late woodland, about 1,000 years ago, give or take.
Yeah,
Yep.
900, 1600 AD is the general cutoff for late woodland period.
Yeah, and Scott, I've also always found sorting artifacts to be very relaxing as well.
Yeah.
So tell me, why did you get into archaeology, and what has kept you in it all these years?
So when I was an undergrad at St. Mary's College of Maryland, I was working for a land surveyor, and my career goals at that time were I'm just going to get whatever college degree. That way I can get the college degree requirement to take my land surveying certification test. But then I had a professor at St. Mary's who Dr. Julie King, and she has a way with students that gets them very interested. And so then she gave me my first job in archaeology, and then I never looked back since. And the guy who I used to do land surveying for is probably a little bitter about that.
My first job in archaeology was also with Julie, right there at the Mac Lab, in fact, many moons ago.
She's a
So
job creator.
she's a force of nature, that one, I'll tell you. So, Scott, tell us about your Maryland Archaeology Month topic. What did you write about?
So my topic is on the use of LiDAR data sets in archaeology. And LiDAR essentially stands for light radar. It's flown from an aircraft with a sensor on the bottom that shoots essentially laser light down, and it records the amount of time that that light takes to reflect off of surfaces, so like the grass or the leaves of trees or the ground. And from that, you can build highly detailed digital elevation models or digital terrain models. And it allows you to see minute changes in the topography that could indicate different cultural features or natural features. And so I've been using LiDAR data sets to look at areas around Jefferson Patterson Park and Museum and try to see anything that I can find that isn't necessarily natural. So some of the things that show up are previous excavation units, including some from the Stern site and other sites here at the park. You can find boundary ditches and old roads through the woods, and some old house sites as well show up on there. So just taking that and trying to find anything that looks a little odd, and then go out into the field and then kind of ground truth it just to see if what I'm seeing on the screen correlates with anything in reality.
So have you gotten to identify any new sites using this technology?
So there was one site, and this wasn't in my article because we just found it recently, there's a known brick kiln site near the park entrance, and it's known as the Steve Embry site, which is named after Steve Embry, who works here in maintenance, because he had originally found the site. And in the brick kiln area on the LiDAR image, you can actually make out the outlines of where the actual brick kiln structures were located, but you can't see it on the ground when you're out there. And it's very difficult because of low visibility, and it seems to be an area of the forest where all the trees have fallen down and nowhere else has it fallen down. So fortunately, we had this LiDAR data set that allowed us to get eyes on the ground kind of remotely to look to see what these features look like. And we've identified a number of roads, and we've gone out and confirmed that there are indeed these roads and paths that show up on these LiDAR data sets. But there's still a lot more things that we want to go out and look at.
Oh, I don't doubt it. Jeff Pat is such a rich, culturally rich place. You know, you don't need it just gives you an excuse to go out in the field, really, which I'm always looking for an excuse. I don't know about you.
Oh yeah, whenever we're having a particularly busy day and we just need a break, I'll go grab the director of the Mac Lab, Trisha Sanford, and we'll go explore some of these features. The last one we went to explore was what looked like a tree farm, and we went out into the woods, and sure enough, there are these evenly spaced large poplar trees. Still don't know the whole story behind that, but we're trying to incorporate that into a cultural resource management plan for the park.
So how do you think that innovative technologies like LiDAR are going to be improved upon in the future, so to help archaeologists and the public learn even more about the past?
I think the greatest leap forward with LiDAR is going to be accessibility of the tools in order for people to make their own LiDAR data sets. Right now, I'm working off of LiDAR data sets that were funded by federal grants after hurricanes, for example. There are LiDAR data sets that came after Hurricane Isabel in 2003, and then after Hurricane Sandy. And I think that's the latest statewide LiDAR data set. And so they're being made at the state level, but now you can get LiDAR sensors that can be attached to drones that are light enough that if you have the right tools and right software, that you can process data yourself and really focus on smaller areas and get higher resolution data than is available on the statewide data sets.
Well, yeah, that's fascinating. And I just want to say thanks to you for all the great work that you've done with technology in Maryland. And thanks for sitting down and talking to us about it today.
Thanks for your interest.